Hey guys, welcome into the Starcastic Remarks Studios. My name is Ryan. I am the host of Starcastic Remarks, and we are brought to you by Draftkings Sportsbook. Please go and use the promo code THPN the next time you go and use their app. This is the after game review for game number 75 against the San Jose Sharks. The Stars do pull out the win tonight by a final score of 2-1. Wasn't the prettiest game overall, but the Stars do go out and take care of business and get the full 2 points with teams that are also still continuing to gain points in Vegas, LA, and Nashville also winning tonight. So it's very important that the Stars did win tonight. We're going to go ahead and bring in Chris here tonight. Hey, Chris, how you doing, bud?
Howdy, I'm doing great.
I think Chris is a little tired tonight. You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm a little tired because I watched that boring hockey game.
I agree. It wasn't the most entertaining game, especially after the last two games. The Tampa Bay
Yeah.
game, which I thought was boring, was definitely not boring compared to this game. And then obviously the game against the Minnesota Wild was fantastic as well. So
Mhm.
I mean, the Stars don't play as well tonight like they did against Minnesota, but they still get the win, and we've been saying that lately. As
Yeah.
they're not doing as fantastic as we expect them to, but they still get the 2 points and they still continue to climb up the standings and hopefully get that first wild card spot.
Yeah, I was unhappy with the job that they did overall, especially with the chances that they gave up. But Ellie, my girlfriend, asked me, she said, "How'd the game go?" And I said, "Bad, but we won." And she just said, "At this point, that's all that matters." And I was like, you know what? That's so as long as we can get the points, all that's gonna matter at this point is what happens in the playoffs. So we got the points,
Exactly.
we got out of there.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, you're just trying to get those points. No pun intended there.
Yep.
But
And a correction
you're
on you from the beginning of the episode, the Knights lost tonight. They lost 0 to
oh, they
4.
did?
So,
Oh, okay.
yes,
Well, then
they
there
did.
then there was another team that won that was close. Who
So
did I
we
think?
are so we are ahead. We're gave ourselves a good little cushion here. Vegas has 87 points. Um and actually the team that's closest that would be next to us would be LA. So Vegas is actually closer to LA, who has 88 points. So, like we said at the beginning of the season, looks like
Oh,
there are going to be 5 Central teams and 3 Pacific teams as the Kings and the Knights battle for that third Pacific Division spot.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at the Golden Knights Oilers score, and for some reason I thought I saw that the Knights won 4-0. That's my bad. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Chris, for correcting me because I would have missed that.
But now that's a
Um,
2-game lead with a game in hand, which they'll get that game in hand back I think tomorrow. But
mhm.
either way, Stars are doing well right now. We look like we're in a good spot.
And we got a game in hand on the LA Kings and on the Vegas Golden Knights. And I really think you're right, Chris. If the Stars can continue their points percentage, which they're third best since the All Star break, the only teams that have been better are Calgary and Colorado when it's come to points percentage. Then it really is a race for the wild card spot number one between Nashville and Dallas, which Dallas has a good chance of getting. I'm not sure if they'll get it, but they still have a chance of getting it. And it looks like Vegas and LA are going to be battling for that last Pacific Division spot. So that's very good news for the Dallas Stars.
And getting that wild card 1 spot could be gigantic on what happens when we get to the playoff tournament because e even playing Calgary is so much better than playing any of the other 3 Central Division teams that have 1, 2, 3. That's, uh, Colorado, St. Louis, and Minnesota. I would rather play Calgary over any of those 3. So, if we can get wild card 1, that could turn out to be huge as we get into the playoffs.
Well, and consider this though. I know you're saying stuff about, oh, well, we would love to play Calgary over Colorado. You're right. I would agree with you, but how have the Stars been doing against the Colorado Avalanche this year? They're 2-1 against the Colorado Avalanche. Now I know in one of those games they got severely outplayed and Otter stood on his head, but still they're still 2-1 against the Colorado Avalanche this season, and I don't think they play them again for the rest of the year. So
I th I'm pretty sure we're similar against the Flames, but we've only played them twice. I think we're 1-1. We might be 2-0, I don't remember. but the Flames are just not as good a team as any of the three in the Central Division. Like, just watching them, you would know that. So, over a 7-game set, Calgary would be much easier to control. But and it's starting to seem like getting that wild card 1 spot is pretty likely for the Stars too. If you look at the Preds schedule versus the Stars schedule, the Stars play 2 teams that are in playoff spot. We play them on a back-to-back night, which is very
That's gonna
unfortunate.
suck.
But it's Edmonton and Calgary on the 20th and the 21st. Other than that, all teams below the playoffs line, and most of them are out of a playoff spot or out of contention, except for Vegas. So that's a lot of points available. And if you look at the Preds schedule, I think they only have 1 team that is below the playoff line. So it looks like we should be getting that spot. And like I said, that's going to be huge. It would be much easier to play. Well, the first round you would play against Calgary, and then after that you get another one of the Pacific teams. So it could be gigantic.
Right, and let's get into that real quick because that's an interesting discussion. Because if Vegas makes the playoffs and they do get that number 3 seed, they would be playing against the Edmonton Oilers, which that's a nightmare matchup if you're Edmonton, because Vegas, they've been battling not just injuries all season, but also the cap. And that they really kind of handicapped themselves when, no pun intended, when they went out and got Jack Eichel and his $10 million cap hit. And also when the Dodonov trade was nixed and it was not allowed to go through. So the cap doesn't exist in the playoffs. So it means that the Vegas Golden Knights can put whatever players they want. And if it's a $100 million cap hit, it does not matter. That's just the rule in the playoffs. So if you're the Stars right now, and let's assume that we get the first wild card spot, which that would be best case scenario, you don't, and I know I'm looking way far ahead in the future because that's assuming we beat Calgary, which that's a big if, because Calgary's still a good team. But your second round matchup might be the Vegas Golden Knights with all of their healthy players and with, $100 million cap hit. So if you're a Dallas Stars fan and you're looking at getting that first wild card spot, you're rooting for Los Angeles to keep that third spot instead of Vegas, because that would be an absolute nightmare situation for the Stars. That's just my opinion.
That's true. But even
I
then,
know
I'd
that's
rather
thinking
take the Golden
way
Knights.
far ahead, but still.
Even then, I'd rather take the Golden Knights over anybody in the Central. I mean, honestly, still. I think the Central Division teams are just that much better. And I don't know exactly if that's how it works in the playoffs. I think if they come off injury that you can do that. I'm not sure exactly how well that goes down.
The rules don't exist in the playoffs. It's weird. But they're actually looking at implementing a cap for the playoffs, which I don't know how they would make that work. And it's just because some teams are hacked off at, the Lightning for their $15 million over the cap during the playoffs last season. And, Vegas doing it this season and, manipulating it to where they can get their players in that they need. And I mean, 3 players went on LTIR on the same day for Vegas, which that's unheard of. And they only did that so they could get Mark Stone into the lineup, who is apparently healthy enough to get in, although I don't think he is. But regardless, they're playing, cap-friendly stuff right now. They're playing, I don't know, NHL 22. Yeah, GM mode. Yeah, NHL 22 GM mode, trying to stay under the cap. So, anyways, Chris, anything else we need to mention about the standings before we get into the game tonight? Good discussion there.
We should be in, but the Stars, they're great at screwing it up.
Yep. Agreed. All right. I actually did not get to start this game. I didn't get to start watching this game until about, I don't know, it was probably about 8:10, 8:15 before I actually started to get to watch it. So I sped through this game. It was kind of nice to watch it in like an hour and a half rather than 2.5 hours. But regardless, in the first period, Otter is back in net. It's the same lineup as the game against the Wild, which makes a lot of sense because the game against the Wild was very good. They played well. They just didn't execute the way they wanted to. But Thomas Hurdle, who signed the new 8-year extension with the San Jose Sharks, would start with a chance right off the bats to start the game. Um, Gary would try to go around. He gets a decent shot, but not great. Suter had a couple of good shots from the point at this point. And 5 minutes in, the shots are 3-1 Dallas. Gary on off with another blast, but it misses wide. And there's some good pressure which forces icing on San Jose, that forces them to take an icing call. And then Seguin with a cross crease pass by Suter, and it actually kind of got deflected off Ben somehow as well. And the Stars go up 1-0 off of that goal, and it started with an ozone faceoff win. So Stars showing their dominance in the faceoff circle continued tonight. Good job by Seguin. It's a non-Seguin-esque goal, but that seems to be a thing this season, and he gets his 23rd of the year, I believe. Yes, 23rd of the year.
Yeah, and pretty much the whole beginning of this game, the Stars dominating. They came out of the gates hot and it looked super good, and then it stopped right after this goal, pretty much. So great goal by Seguin, great pass by Suter. He looked really good all night tonight. I feel like in the offensive zone, more so than he has recently. But yeah, after this goal, the Stars kind of slowed up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. There was a San Jose shot just after that would trickle wide, just wide of Otter, and that seemed to happen a couple of times tonight, where a shot just would just on the ice, it would just slowly trickle by him, but nonetheless, it trickles by him. A minute later, so there are some San Jose shots from the distance getting tipped, or there's traffic in front of Otter, but Otter's making some good saves off of there. And what did you think of Ottinger's play tonight? I thought he wasn't overtaxed, but he was definitely more solid than he's been the last couple of weeks. And I think it's really helped that he got a long time off. You know, Wedgwood got 2 games in a row, and he looked better tonight, in my opinion. What did you think of Ottinger's play tonight?
He was very good. He was tested a lot on the rush, and he was very good on all those chances. He's with just like puck handling, like he would just drop a puck that he would normally hold on to and stuff like that. Just weird little things. And you're right, there was no like cycle game. The Sharks never got a cycle game going. The Stars just gave up a lot of odd man rushes tonight, and he handled them all very well. There were some huge chances in the second period that he saved us from. So definitely a good outing by him, but you're right, not overly taxed either.
Right after he makes those good saves, Timo Meyer would hit the post off of Hakanpää. So it bounces off Hakanpää, hits the post, and stays. Reedy would have a shot off the chance, and I don't know if you would agree with this. This is something that Razor said. Razor said that there was a smidge of casual in their game tonight, especially in that first period. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. Throughout the game, like I said, after the first 5 minutes, they looked great. The forecheck was hard. They were pouncing on them, and then after that, it just seemed like they're just like they weren't digging in and getting into the game. They were just gonna like, okay, we're gonna skate through this and we're gonna win and we're just gonna beat them, which worked out this game because the Sharks didn't play well at all. But
They
it's
didn't.
not
It's not going to
it's
work
not gonna
against
work every
Edmonton or
time.
Calgary.
Well, and it's not gonna work against bad teams, but like we bring out our grittiness and our strength when we play against those good teams. So when it's this late in the season, that doesn't really matter anymore. Like all we're going to be playing
Just
in the
got to go
playoffs
for
is
the
good
win.
teams. But I mean, we're playing some bad teams coming up, and there's going to be some young guys on these bad teams that are their first time in the NHL, and they're going to try and prove something. And we're going to have to play hard to beat them because we need these points, and these young guys are going to play hard. So I feel like we need to figure that out and make sure we get in before we start relying on our awesome skill that everybody knows the Stars have to get us into the playoffs.
Sarcastic remarks from Christian there tonight, living up to the name of the podcast. Anyways, there wasn't much going on for the rest of the period. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that the Stars have not been as good lately at home like they were through the first 20 games. In the last 18 games, they were 9-7-2, in their last 18 home games. And part of that has been the play of Otter a little bit has kind of gone down a little bit, but it's also been that they've allowed more goals. It hasn't just been Otter's fault. They've allowed more offensive chances, and I just thought that was interesting. Is that something that may come to bite us in the butt later on,
I
if
think that's kind
assuming
of
we
a
make the
law of
playoffs?
averages. I think that's kind of just a law of averages thing, because like we were just ridiculously good at home, and then ridiculously bad on the road, and
And now it's kind of
it just it
flip-flopped.
just kind of balanced. It hasn't flip flopped really. I mean, we're still good at home. It's still a positive record, and we're still not great on the road, but they're kind of
We're way
coming to
better.
the
We've
middle.
been really good on the road lately. The last
We've
2
had some
months.
good runs, but in the same amount of games so in the last 18 games, I'd say they're probably both around 500. So obviously our road is above it, but still overall, is what I'm saying.
Right, I get it. I get it. Random question. I'll write it down and I'll ask you at the end of the podcast because it's an interesting question. So going into the first intermission, score is 1-0, and I just wrote San Jose had some really good chances off the rush, but Honor has handled it well. And I need to give the Stars credit. Their forecheck was very good tonight. They were forcing the San Jose, especially their defenders, to stay in their own zone. They were just getting nothing off of it, which I guess if you have a 1-goal lead and you're keeping them in their zone, I mean, that takes care of business, right? Which I guess that was okay for
Yeah.
tonight's game.
The biggest problem though was the turnovers. I mean, turnovers in
Yeah.
our own zone, turnovers in neutral zone, and on the offensive blue line. I mean, those are killer.
Yeah, and go ahead and talk about that because we're now in the second period because I thought that was the worst period of the 3 for the game tonight.
Well, I mean, there's not much to say, especially in the defensive zone tonight. They were unforced errors too. The Sharks did not have a great forecheck, and just a lot of passes in the defensive zone were just ill-advised, not thought through. As Razor says, it was just passing along your problems and not trying to make a play. And it was just laziness on that part. On the offensive blue line, I don't know what it is with our offensive-minded guys, but they have just been making some. It's the passes into the middle. So they cross the blue line and they try to pass across the zone, and they just keep getting knocked off, and that gives you the best chance to get a turnaround and go up the zone. So I don't know what has been happening and why that's been a problem recently, but it has. I don't know what's up with it.
The other thing I noticed is they weren't doing much with the turnovers in the offensive zone that San Jose was giving them. I don't know if you noticed anything off of that, but they had their opportunities to take advantage of some offensive chances, and they
I thought
didn't
they had some
really
good
do.
opportunities. They had some
I
good
thought
shots.
it
They
was
didn't score on any
okay.
of them, but
Maybe that's more what I'm. And I'm not really mad. I'm just kind of picking apart something that I can find to make their game better. Okay,
I
they,
thought
they
they
just
had
didn't
good
play great
chances.
tonight.
They just didn't score.
Ugh, isn't that the mantra for the Dallas Stars the past half decade?
Yeah.
Uh,
Definitely.
anyways, getting into the second period, I had a lot of notes in this period because I thought it was not all that great. The third period, I had barely any. Stars would hit the post from the point shot, Robo deflection. Robo almost makes it 2-0. Do you think he makes 40 goals?
Robo?
I think he does. I think he could do it.
Honestly, since we're playing bad teams, no, because he doesn't play as good against bad teams.
Oh, he almost made me spit my Dr. Pepper out of my mouth. But, I really hope he does because he would be the first 40 goal scorer in a very long time for the Dallas Stars. I think the last one was Sagan and Ben in the same year, like long time ago. Like, I think it
When we
was,
won the West.
yeah, it was Lindy Ruff
16?
area. Yeah, something like that. It's been a long time. It's been 5 or 6 years. So I hope he gets there. We'll see. Anyways, Gregor would have a one-timer off of the boards. It was a really good save by Otter there. Hakaball, I thought was awesome. Shows how much man. He's too much man. He knocks down 2 San Jose Sharks and one of his own players at the same time. So the
Yeah,
dude is just
he could
insane.
be huge in the playoffs.
He's exactly a guy that you want in the playoffs. Big body,
Yep.
really good defensive playing. So, and we love to have him on our team. Robo takes a high stick, no call from the ref. It gets missed. Not a good play from Gary at the offensive zone blue line here, and it could have been a 3-on-1 San Jose rush, but
It should have been
Suter
a breakaway.
it
It was just
could
a
have been
bad
really
pass.
bad. It was a really ill-advised pass, and thankfully Suter was there to make sure that nothing happened out of that. San Jose would take a penalty. It was the first Stars power play. It was a good power play overall, I thought. They had their chances, but Kakinen was equal to the task, who we should give credit to Kakinen tonight because the first game he played against the Stars when he was in Minnesota, He really sucked it up. The last game when he was it? I can't remember if it. Yeah, he did start for San Jose in the last game against the Stars. He really sucked in that game too. And tonight he kind of made up for it. Third time's the charm. He played really well tonight. He deserves every credit. Only allowed 2. And there was Sagan would have some chances, Ben would have some chances during that power play, but they would kill that off. San Jose would. There's a big save by Otter with Gregor going through Suter. Suter kind of got, danced around on that play. A Peterson turnover was almost costly, and San Jose shoots wide. And that seemed to be a really, really bad thing here tonight. 2 things. San Jose just consistently missed the net, like consistently was testing the glass rather than testing Otter. And then I felt terrible because I'm like, we defended Peterson so much in the last episode. Like, why didn't he get all those opportunities? Why didn't he get those chances, in the last game? Why are you putting Geary and Radulov and, Studenic in that second line slot instead of Peterson? And, he kind of proves Bonus right tonight in why he wasn't
Yeah, he
given that
does.
opportunity, unfortunately.
Peterson and Gary kind of sucked it up tonight. I mean, honestly, I saw multiple plays from them that were just boneheaded, is what they were. They were boneheaded, and they didn't bring any offense, which Bones said himself, like, I can handle some defensive boneheadedness if you can bring offense, and they didn't do it. They were a liability tonight. So I don't like it when Bones is proved right.
Well, I don't know if Peterson's fighting something or whatnot, or if he just had a bad game. I'm thinking he just had a bad game. But we didn't even do our biggest loser and biggest winner. He was going to be my biggest loser, but we'll get to that at the end if we really want to do it. Anyways, where was I? Oh, Balsers with a chance off the slot rush chance. He would get a slot shot off the rush chance. Sorry, Otter would make the save on that. And then I wrote this Shimolevsky kid. He's actually pretty good, and he really likes to shoot the puck from just basically anywhere. I don't know if you noticed that, but that was just something I noticed in the game. And
Well, and that's what I was talking about. The other team's they're gonna have guys like that who
young
want to
guys,
make their
yeah,
presence known and want to show up and are gonna do what they can, and they're gonna work hard to do it, even on a bad team. So those are the guys we need to watch for whenever we're playing these bad teams coming down the stretch. These guys have too much pride to just lay down.
right. And some of these teams are actually playing really well. One real quick shout out. One team that's actually doing really well right now that is finally starting to
What
look
team?
really Buffalo.
Tell me, Ryan.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Believe it, yeah. With the
Well,
addition of Alex
we're not
Tuck
playing
and Peyton
Buffalo.
Krebs. Thank goodness, because unless you're Toronto, then you're really glad not seeing Buffalo. Toronto has lost to Buffalo 3 times this year. It's insane that they've done that. But
Buffalo deserves to be in the playoffs. You heard it here first.
But anyways, Peterson again proves us wrong, proves Bonus right. He takes a penalty for tripping. It was not a very good penalty to take.
That was a stupid call.
I don't think so. It was a tripping penalty.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was a tripping penalty, but
he was falling down. The ref didn't even see anything. His butt was literally in their faces. He didn't see nothing. It was an idiotic penalty. It's proven to be idiotic by. Go ahead, Ryan.
What?
Raffle scores from Glendening.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?
Puck
Anyways,
doesn't lie.
first San Jose power play. Raffle would get a goal. Finally, would get a goal. Finally, he scores. It's amazing. He should be in double digits in goals with the amount of chances that he's had this year. But regardless, who cares? He gets a goal here. He gets a shorthanded goal. It was a 2-on-1 rush chance from Glendening. And, oh my gosh, the pass from Glendening, absolute sick. Backhand saucer right on the tape. If Ruffle didn't score that, it's a travesty that he doesn't score that. Because that was an amazing pass by Glendening.
Since I forgot about the segment before we started, I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle mine throughout. This is my biggest winner, is the Raffle, Glendening, Fox line. They were great all game. I'm going to eat crow again. That was a great shot by Raffle, an amazing pass by Glendenning, and it finally worked, me saying that they sucked for so long, and they finally scored. Gosh, I thought it was actually true and that they were never gonna really score, and they finally did.
Well, anyways, Brandon on YouTube saying Chris looks mad that Ruffle scored from a beautiful pass from Glendenning.
I
So,
wasn't mad when
Glenn,
it happened, trust me. I
yeah.
was elated, it was sweet.
Oh, dude, I was out of my chair screaming at my computer screen. I loved it so much; it was
I was
amazing.
like, "Who put
So,
Pavelski out there? I didn't know he could kill
oh,
penalties."
I thought it was Hintz. I was because Hintz actually does kill penalties. I don't think Pavelski kills as many penalties as they do, but still, it was awesome. Absolutely amazing pass. Great finish by Raffle. Stars are up 2-0. Right after that goal, though, there was a big save by Otter from the San Jose shot. The Dallas Stars penalty kill would take care of business by killing that power play. A really big save by Kokkonen. Again, props to him on Glendenning off of a 3-on-2 rush chance. So, dude, Glendenning just the last couple of games he's been very noticeable, whether it's been
So
offensively,
much offense.
defensively, and I'm hoping that this kind of you know notification, that's not even a word, doesn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying. We're noticing him more. I hope we notice him more and that continues into the playoffs because of all the good plays that he's been making recently. So that's my
Well,
biggest winner tonight is Glendenning.
it definitely can, the whole line can, and what that whole line will do in a 7-game set is it's gonna wear down and frustrate the first line of whoever we're playing against, and that's gonna be their only goal whenever we're in a series like that, is to make them hurt and to make them angry.
And I know we've been really critical of that fourth line in the fact that, we think they're getting too much ice time, which is through no fault of their own. They're just doing what their coach tells them to do. But it is nice to get some, offensive production out of that line because we're really going to need that going into the playoffs. And it shows tonight, which is rare, but hopefully that continues going into the playoffs. Again, assuming we make it. I need to knock on wood every single time I say that. But
Yeah, we are still the Dallas
any
Stars.
yep. Anyways, shots going into the last 3 minutes of the second period. It's 15 all. Benino was completely by himself in front of the net, and he just completely misses it wide. So there's another opportunity for San Jose where they just don't even hit the net. And then I wrote the fourth line has been really good this game. We already talked about that a lot. Miro shoots wide with a minute and a half remaining. There's a deflection by Chmelevski. So I really like this Chmelevski kid. He's really, making his mark for the San Jose Sharks. It trickles just wide on that shot. And then this goal really scared me. Meyer scores from the top of the faceoff circle. Otter never got set, and he never saw it. And it was off of a Dallas Stars icing call. So the Stars, one of the few times where they don't take care of business in the offensive, the faceoff circle, and it's 2-1 Dallas, and that's really a rough goal to give up right before intermission.
Yeah, it's 2-1 in a game where the Sharks have no business in being close, really. And this whole second period was not good by the Stars. I mean, they're just letting them hang around, is what it is. And they need to just take the offense to them. And they never really did it. I mean, even like the second goal, it's like it's a shorthanded goal. We weren't applying offensive pressure. Glendening and Raffle made a great play, is what it was.
Mm.
So it's just not the whole homestand, not enough offensive pressure. And maybe heck me, because we got 5 out of the 6 points on this homestand. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
And again, we keep complaining about stuff, but they seem to find a way to get more points than we feel like they should, right? And they're not playing up to like the potential that we see in them, and probably the potential that Jim Nils sees in them. And they're still winning. They're still finding ways to win. Now, I know not every game, especially this late in the season, is against great teams and everything. But I mean, the 1-0 win against Tampa Bay, the game against Minnesota, we played both of those teams really well, and we came out with 3 out of 4 points against two teams who will definitely make the playoffs. So,
And
I mean, what
and
are
the
we
stat of
complaining
us
about?
and and the biggest thing about this is the stat of us being great against in 1 goal games. And the thing that I will give the bone system credit for is that it keeps you in games. So we can never completely blow out the other team and put them out of it, but we're always in the game pretty much no matter what. We're hardly ever blown out ourselves too. And it's been working out a lot recently. Those 1-goal games, we've been coming out on top. So, in going into the playoffs, it's not a great system for regular season. For the playoffs, it's a pretty dang good system. So, I know we always say it, but we are the most dangerous wildcard team, I think, out of the four that are looking like they'll be it. So I think every number one team is not wanting to face us right now.
I like how you said that because the last couple of weeks, the only games that I've been like that I thought were egregious and bad, and the one in particular that sticks out in my mind is that 4-0 loss against Toronto on March 15th. And that was over a month ago now. And
Mhm.
other than that, every game after that, even though we've lost to some teams that have been like, we really shouldn't lose to those teams like, Vancouver, Seattle, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
That New Jersey game we really should have won. But the Seattle game, I kind of understand. We played 3 games in 4 nights. It was the second game of a back-to-back. We're on the West Coast. And it was really only 2-1 for most of that game. And then the same thing in the Vancouver game. It was 2-1 for the most part of that game. So that's a really interesting point that you bring out, that the Stars are seeming to always give themselves a chance to win. So, and that will become very, very important, when it comes time for playoffs, like you mentioned. So, anyways, end of the second period, third period begins. Right off the bat, first minute in, the line for the Stars starts, and Robo gets 2 more chances to begin the third. 30 seconds after that, Hurdle gives me a heart attack with a mini breakaway. Otter makes a good save on that, and Roddick Foxa makes a really, really, really good D. He doesn't take a penalty and does not allow Hurdle to get a full shot off either. So,
I don't know
great
how that
play by
wasn't a
Foxa
penalty.
there. I didn't think it
I
was a
didn't I didn't
penalty. It
see,
was a good no call. I thought so.
I didn't see a replay, but in real time, in my initial thought is that has to be hooking, but who knows? I didn't see a replay or anything.
Uh, 2 minutes later, Robo would have another shot off the rush. There's a great save by Kokkonen off of a Sagan slot shot from a Studenic pass. So Studenic kind of looking a lot better as it goes on through the game. He looked okay in the first period, not good in the second period, but most of the Stars didn't look good in the second period. And then a much better third by Studenic there. Shots at this point, 6 minutes into the third period, it's 23-19 in favor of the Stars. And there wasn't really much for me to write down in the third period. There was some back and forth play. There were some chances for both teams, but not of the high danger variety for either team. The Stars maybe had some better chances, but I mean the ones I mentioned early on, that was about it. There was 3 chances for Robertson and a chance for Sagan, and then that mini breakaway for Hurdle. Other than that, it was kind of really, really
Yeah.
tight defensively. So I don't
Yeah,
know. What
and
did you think?
that's what I was gonna say. I'll say this: the Stars kind of took care of business. Like they weren't flashy about it, and they didn't do a great job, and they didn't do it the way I would like them to. Obviously, y'all know how I want them to win, but they took
Flashy.
care of business. They did it the Dallas Stars way. They got the 2 points, and they're done. They did what they had to.
Um, Again, there's not much other than Robo would take a hooking penalty at a really bad time. There was a second San Jose power play
And
there,
then that power play was
but
nothing.
yeah, the power play. Then I put but then again, it's San Jose. They haven't won a game at all in April, so that's unfortunate for them. But I mean, there was a couple of chances, but they kept hitting the glass. A minute and
Yeah.
a half remaining. There was an empty net for San Jose. Merkley could not keep it in the zone. He missed twice, which really, really, let the clock kind of tick down for the Stars. There was really one dangerous chance, 6-on-5, that the Stars took care of. And it was kind of a broken play. It kind of bounced around a couple of times in front of Otter, and Otter was able to catch it. And I was really hoping he would get this, but Glendening misses the open net by maybe a foot. And I mean, that would have been the perfect ending for a game for him, and he easily would have been the first star of the game with the game that he would have had. But Stars win the game 2-1 over the Sharks. This is a team that is not going to make the playoffs. It's a team that doesn't know their direction right now, the San Jose Sharks. I have a lot of older guys who are, going to stick around for a long time, and mostly on their blue line. When you've got Burns, Carlson, and Marc-Andre Vlasic. Something Vlasic. And I mean, I'll go back to this again, but I think the worst thing that they ever did was sign Erik Karlsson. That's my opinion about the San Jose team. And I mean, and what happens? Because
would have wanted to sign Karlsson when he was a free agent. What dumb person would want that?
The Stars wanted to.
It was me.
I'm glad they didn't.
It was me. I wanted it.
I'm so glad we didn't. I mean, can you imagine? That's an $11 million cap hit. That's for as much as we criticize
Heiskanen for it.
Yeah. For as much as we've criticized Seguin and Ben for not scoring with third ginormous cap hits, Karlsson would have been much worse. So that would have been terrible. Plus, we wouldn't have Miro Heiskanen. No thanks. But the best players in my opinion in tonight's game, Seguin continues to do really well. He gets a goal tonight. He was very, very noticeable offensively, getting a couple of chances. Ben had a pretty solid game. I wouldn't say super fantastic, but very solid game for Jamie Benn. And he's been very quiet. Like offensively, he's been very quiet since January has started. And then obviously the guys that I would really notice more tonight than anything, Ottinger obviously was very solid, has been playing better. And then Glendening. Man, Glendening has been so good the past 2 weeks especially. And I guess that's who I would put as my biggest winners in tonight's game were those two guys.
And I already gave my biggest winners, so I'll go losers. My biggest losers is going to be Gurionov and Peterson for the reasons I've already mentioned. Can't have those turnovers. I mean, we say that we need the offense, but we don't need the offense at the cost of. I mean, there was it was 3 or 4 really bad turnovers by both of them, and only them two. So I don't know. I'm so confused. I don't want to agree with Bones, but I might have to.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a couple of comments, and I'll ask my question that I was thinking about earlier. Brandon on YouTube, thanks for listening, Brandon, and commenting along with us tonight. Avengers line was not on the board tonight, and we got a W? What's up with that? What do you think?
They need to score, first of all. For this team to beat good teams, there you have to score. But yeah, we've been getting, especially the second half of the season, when we had the third best point percentage, like you've mentioned, Ryan, we've been getting more goals from secondary scoring. That's very good, especially from Seguin. Seguin has been very good in this last third of the season, I'd say. So yes, we need those backup goals, and that's how you're going to win a cup. Honestly, I mean, this team with only having one line is decent. We're where we are. We're a bubble team with the one line. If we can get multiple people and multiple lines scoring goals, we can become a cup team if our goaltender is hot too. So that's how you get a chance. And that's why we're saying all you got to do is get in.
Ardell asking me on YouTube, how many goals and points does Seguin now have for the season? I don't know, so I have to look this up. He has
3 and 46.
So he has 46 on the year then?
Yes.
46 points
they didn't
total?
update his goal total yet.
Okay, so he has
23 goals and 23 assists.
And again, that's not a fantastic stat. We would want to have Seguin have way more points than that. But again, he's been more solid. He's been better. And hopefully next year, especially, he will be even better than this season. But
just this playoffs.
Yeah, I would be happy with this playoffs. And maybe he can pull a Pavelski, and the first year Pavelski was a non-factor for the most part. And then he got hot in the playoffs.
So
in the bubble playoffs, and he's been the Stars' best player ever since, in my opinion, especially offensively. I mean, the dude's 37, and he's putting up numbers like crazy. So, anyways, let's see. One more comment, and then I'll ask you my question, Chris. We need a young winger to boost that Sagi line. Desperately need that. 100%
Well, that's
agree.
supposed to be Gurianov and Peterson, and they're playing like trash. So
Right.
I don't know,
And
man.
and I think they went out and got Studenic with the idea that he might be able to do that, but the guy just doesn't have a lot of offensive upside like Peterson and Gurianov do, especially Gurianov. So,
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
that's the annoying thing
Nemestikov,
about Gurianov. Gurianov has all the weapons: the wicked one timer, the
that shot,
speed,
we
the
haven't seen it.
shot, the size, and he just can't put it together. I mean, that's what's so frustrating about Gurianov, and that's why we scream about him all the time. And he hasn't put it together. I mean, that's at this point, it's been what, like 3 seasons now since he's been fully like on the team and been like one of the guys, and he hasn't come through. He's got to personally make that decision to do that. And last time we were in the playoffs, he did that, and he was amazing. Maybe that's what it's going to take again. So
Well, I mean, we all talk about the shot that he made. I forget which game it was, but it was a slap shot from one of the circles, and and apparently somebody clocked it, and it was like 110 miles per hour or
it was
something
the
like that.
clincher against the Knights to send us to the playoffs.
So yeah, I mean, I
And that
mean,
dude was crazy in the playoffs. So maybe that'll spark him. But even if it does, he's got to figure out how to spark that without it being the playoffs too. If he's going to be a great forward in the league, but
yeah.
he
So
he has all this stuff, and that's why he's so frustrating because he has everything. He just needs to
mhm.
do it.
Now, is it him or is it Bones or is it a mixture of both? What do you think?
He's had two coaches. Had multiple line mates. It's him. He's got to do it.
Hmm. So I agree with you. Let me go ahead and ask you this question because I can't remember if I've asked this to you before. Maybe I've asked you off air or something like that. But this is something that I thought was really interesting because everybody is really starting to talk about how much they hate the 3-point games, right? So you get a point for losing in overtime and stuff like that. What if we change the point system in the NHL and how they do it? Okay. So here's what, and this is not my suggestion. This is a suggestion that I saw on Twitter, and I thought it was an interesting take. So I thought I'd bring it up here. If you get a regulation win, you get 3 points. Overtime
Yes,
win, 2 points. Overtime loss, 1 point. You lose, you get nothing. So it's
I
sort of kind of the way that's soccer does a lot of their stuff, especially over in Europe. But what would you think about something like that?
have
Making
advocated that
regulation
multiple
wins.
times.
Yeah. So
Lots.
what what so what
I've done
so
that.
you do like that idea?
Absolutely, because it punishes you for going to overtime too, which I think you need to. Because like if you don't win in regulation, you did something wrong. You weren't obviously better. So I like that absolutely.
And
Because
I'll
right
have
now
to.
the stars are where they are, and the only punishment they get is like, oh well, if you're tied, which has never really happened, then
Mhm,
you don't win the tiebreaker. Oh
right.
no. What a
Yeah,
terrible, terrible punishment.
and I totally agree with the fact that ties are stupid. I'm glad they're out of the game. That was something they got rid of after the 04-05 lockout. I'm glad they got rid of that. But I mean, I think that's a fantastic way to reward teams, for getting that. And and here's another question that I had. If you go to 3-on-3. I still think 3-on-3 is one of the greatest things they've ever come up with. It's fantastic. It's made the game extremely exciting when, games go to overtime. Should they Oh, okay, so yeah, Ardell's already mentioning it. 10 minutes of 3-on-3. What do you think about that? I've seen that a lot from not just Stars fans but hockey fans. I like that idea. And then but the only problem is how do you end the game? Because you don't want to end the game on 10 minutes on 3-on-3. But also the other decision to do is to do a shootout, which that sucks too.
I
So
I honestly
did I
think
say shutout? I meant shootout. Sorry, but
having more than 5 minutes of 3-on-3 overtime would have the terrible unintended consequence of nobody attacking, because you already see it sometimes where if you don't have the perfect lane, you'll just loop it back to your goalie and everyone will just skate in a circle again. And that still happens sometimes with 5-on-5. So if you give them 10 minutes to do that, I feel like you're going to actually ruin it, and it's just going to get boring, and people are going to pass it back in their own defensive zone until someone messes up, and then they might go. But I think it would have the opposite effect, actually. I think it would make it slower, and I think it would give less chances. So
So
I
you
think 5
like the
minutes is
point?
where it's at. And I
Sorry, go
think
ahead.
shootouts obviously aren't ideal. They're definitely not, but it's a way to decide it, and it's only 1 point in a regular season game. If there were shootouts in the playoffs, absolutely, I would agree with that. And there's penalty kicks in soccer for World Cup matches still. That's insane.
I
So
still I don't like that. I hate that.
the way hockey does overtime in the playoffs is the best in sports. You can't do that for regular season and still have an 82 game season. So it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but a shootout, at least there is some form of hockey being played, and it just decides who gets the last point. So I'm cool with it.
And again, only 2 points. Like
Yeah.
both teams get a point after the 3-on-3 if it, goes all the way through. And then it ends right there. Both teams at least get a point, and then they go to a shootout to get one additional point. I
Yeah.
think I think I like that idea. So you think keep the points or change the point system, make regulation wins more important, and then when it comes to the overtime stuff, basically keep it the same. 5 minutes of 3-on-3, and then do the shootout. Is that what
Yep.
I'm getting?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep, I agree too. So I mean that's the best case scenario. I don't think there's a better alternative than that. And you know what's funny about all this? Us agreeing on this and saying, "Oh, well, 3 points should be for regulation wins." If that was the point system this year, I don't think the Stars make the playoffs.
Oh, no way. Not a chance.
Not a chance that the Stars make the playoffs. So, and I mean, they still kind of make regulation wins important in the fact that that's the first tiebreaker.
Not
But
nearly as much, though.
again, the
Ties almost never
tiebreaker,
happen in hockey for some reason, actually.
right? Yeah, the tiebreakers when it comes to points in the standings, it very rarely happens. So,
Which is weird because
anyways,
in baseball,
it
there's
happens
one
all the
game
time.
playoffs like every 3 years, I feel like, to get
Mhm.
into the playoffs. And just hockey just doesn't happen. Weird.
I want to bring this up too. Sorry. I know we're going long, but I thought this was interesting too. I didn't know that the NBA did this. So, here's what the NBA does, okay? So, they actually have a play-in round, kind of like how the NCAA does their March Madness tournament, right? So, they have 4 teams that can go in and get those number 16 spots in the March Madness tournament, which I mean, you could argue about it or whatever. So what the NBA actually does is that with the bottom 2 teams that are there in the standings, they play against one another. Okay? So it's just a one game playoff type atmosphere, right? So those 2 teams play together, okay? So 7 and 8 play against each other. Let's just say the 7th team wins. Okay, the 7th seeded team wins. Then the 9 and 10 seed play against each other, and let's say that the 10th wins. Well, then the 8th seed will then have to go and play against the 10th seed for that final playoff spot. So that
All one
adds
game.
in, yeah, all one game. So I think that's a really interesting and creative way to get more teams possibly into the playoffs. Now, more than
I
likely, it leads to more. It still leads to first round exits for those teams, more than likely, but it could also lead to Cinderella runs. So, do you like that idea or do you dislike that idea?
I like that for basketball. I think having 4 teams in that situation is a little gimmicky. I think the best version, if you want to have like a one game winner takes all playoff style, the best way to do that is the way baseball does it, and just have the bottom 2 from each league playing against each other and have the one game winner to take all that way. But I just think it's not hockey playoffs. Even if you had a one game playoff, it's not actually Stanley Cup playoffs until it's a 7 game series. There's something different and magical about hockey playoffs that is just a grueling marathon. It's just all out war for 7 straight games that just makes hockey playoffs awesome. And I just think a one-game playoff format, it just doesn't work
Would
as
slightly
well for
ruin that.
hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even the Olympic tournaments or the what were they called? The non-Olympics that the NHL put on.
The World Cup.
Even those, yeah, the World Cup of hockey. Even those, they feel a little strange to me. Like they're fun to have the one game, but it's not the same as Stanley Cup playoffs. Stanley Cup playoffs are something special, and I just don't think a one game playoff fits into that mold well. I like the way it is now.
So you say leave that to baseball and basketball and keep hockey the way that
Leave
it
that.
is.
What I would do is there's no tiebreaker stat. I would get rid of the tiebreaker, regulation wins, which obviously would be done away with by the 3-point thing that we were talking about earlier. But even
Mm.
if we do that and there's still a tie somehow, don't decide it by a stat. If two teams are tied for the 8th spot, they play a game. The team that was higher in the beginning of the season and the other it plays at home. The team that caught up to them plays on the road. One game playoff. Whoever wins it gets into the 8th spot. That would be fun, and that would be like a once in 5-year thing. It would be a big deal. It'd blow up on social media. So I think
Okay,
that's what
so
you got to do,
what
and that's
about
what MLB does too.
the situation that the Stars and the Nashville Predators are in right now? Because I mean,
Hmm.
aren't they tied for points right now? Am I wrong? They are
Yes.
tied for points right now, so they're both in the playoffs. But would you have them go and do a one game playoff kind of thing to see which team goes?
No, you're in the playoffs at that point. Doesn't matter as much. The difference between being in and being out is such a huge difference. The difference between seeding when you're already in the playoffs, honestly, at the end of the day, not that big of a difference. You're gonna have to beat all the teams anyway.
That's true. So good discussion there. Sorry, I know that was kind of random there at the end, but I've seen a lot of that, especially with the end of the playoffs coming up, and the board of governors meetings are coming up here in the off season, and I really thought that was interesting. 3 points for a
Yep.
regulation win, 2 for
Fun stuff to
an
talk about.
overtime loss, 0 for if you just lose in regulation. So I think that would be great. I don't think it's going to change, but it might. So anything else, Chris, before I do my sign off?
GG boys.
There we go. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. This has been the after game review for the game against the San Jose Sharks. Stars take care of business tonight, 2-1. Please go and check out StarcasticRemarkShop.com. That's where we got released our first phase of our merchandise options. And we also have 2 new stickers, one with me saying, catch you on the flip side, one with, I got to point, Chris saying GG boys like he just did. And we would also really appreciate it if you guys would leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google, iHeartRadio, even whatever. We'd really appreciate that if you would leave us a comment and a review on that. That really helps us out. And once again, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, DraftKings. Go and use the promo code THBN next time you're on their website, on their app, and especially with playoffs starting for the Mavs, which they lost game 1. Hopefully they get Luka back for game 2. And also with playoffs starting for Stars, and the Rangers are just starting their season, so lots of good opportunities for you to go and use their app for all that sort of stuff. I think that's going to do it for us. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. We'll be back with you guys on Monday for a late game as the Stars go on the road. First game is against Vancouver. We'll be there with you guys late. Hope you guys have a fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you're listening. Bye.